Wrestling fans, a night to remember. Saturday, September 21st, the Picture Perfect Event Center, Jackson, Tennessee. Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremony comes to Jackson for the first time ever. The Rivalry of the Ages presentation to Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee. Also, Handsome Jimmy Valiant, the Rock and Roll Express, Danny Davis, and tons more. Exclusive meet and greet at 3:30. Event to follow. Go to MemphisWrestlingHallOfFame.com to purchase tickets. Saturday, September 21st, Picture Perfect Event Center, 2310 North Highland, Jackson. A night to remember.
Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Retro Wrestling Review USWA podcast, as we are on episode number 16, and we are going to be talking about the April 3rd, 1993 episode of USWA TV. I'm your host, Gene Jackson, and before we get started, you know we got to bring in our beloved co-hosts, Josh Briley and Richard Mulliken of P3 Radio. Guys, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. Glad to be here for Sweet 16, you know. How many wrestlers have said that?
Yikes, I'm just glad to be here.
There's probably one on the show today. But we won't say who it is.
Quinceañeras, if you're into that kind of thing.
Well, we're coming in hot this week. I was just about to say, we've been getting more positive words this week. Some very nice things have been said on the podcast page on Facebook. You can follow us there, and people have been emailing me stuff. I've been sharing some of that with y'all, so we really appreciate it. It's really nice to hear from folks and know that they're watching what we're doing, and they're enjoying it. And you understand that we're just having fun. We're not trying to be mean to anybody or attack anybody, but sometimes, you know, things don't hold up in 20 something years, and well, at this point, 30 years on a lot of this stuff. So, you know, we try to make the show entertaining. So it's good to know that when Richard makes jokes about his dog, that you appreciate it, because that's what it's here for. It's all in fun. So
long story short, we just don't want Lawler showing up burning us for anything that we're saying.
That's right, because he is known to show up and just drop a fireball on somebody for a lot less than some of the implied jokes that have been made here, if you will.
Going to be a hot night at the Hall of Fame down there in Jackson. Shit, I'm not going to go, Jim.
So real quick before we get started, and by the time this airs, this will be a couple of weeks in the past. But our favorite Uncle Danny, Nightmare Danny Davis, who's going in the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame, as we discussed in the last episode, recently appeared on our friend Randy Hale's Talking Memphis Wrestling. But there's a little bit of misinformation going on out there. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just people don't know. But it was said a couple different times on that podcast. It was repeated again on a podcast that I did. Of course, it wasn't said by me. It's being said that was the first podcast that Nightmare Danny Davis had ever done. I have to disagree, guys. Can you school everybody on what was probably the first podcast that Nightmare Danny Davis ever did?
I think the very first one, now to my knowledge, you know, the very first one, at least the one that he told me, hey, you need to listen to this one, was the one from, I guess it was either late 2014 or early 2015. Colt Cabana's The Art of Wrestling.
Yeah.
He was on that one. And then he went to, I guess it was Stone Cold's podcast.
Yeah, son.
Then he went to JR's, the Ross Report, I think it was called back then. And that was all within 2015. And then fast forward to 2018, Richard Lee?
Yeah, probably.
About August of 2018, he did our 1-year anniversary show. And that, you know, that was a 3-year break for him. But either way, I say all that to say he did all of those before The recently one.
He did make a point to tell us too that he doesn't do this very often.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Wolfie actually said something like, "You got the unicorn," you know, like, and so it is kind of cool to hear him on. But yeah, he did ours, and you can hear that on P3 Radio.
All one word.
All one word on iTunes or Spotify.
And I can vouch for that because I listened to it as recently as last Monday on my way to work. Richard sent me that link and I listened to it, and it was an excellent interview. I really enjoyed it. You guys covered a lot of ground, and it was a fun interview. So I highly suggest, if you guys haven't checked out P3 Radio yet, and if you haven't, shame on you. We've been telling you about it for 16 episodes now. But be sure you go check out that interview with Uncle Danny over there, because it's a good one. And if you can find any of those other interviews, I'm sure they're great too. I'm sure listening to Uncle Danny hanging out in Colt's studio apartment was fun. And, you know, I'm sure he had some great stories with Stone Cold. So check those out. But
I think all of those are behind paywalls now.
of course they are.
Except
But you know who's aren't behind a paywall? Our good friends at P3 Radio, because they're nice guys. They're not trying to fleece you for every dime. They're not working you like the old wrestling promoters are. They're just putting it out there because they want to entertain you, because they're your friends, by God. And that's why they're here every week, entertaining you, having fun, and saying inappropriate things. But
trust me, if we could figure out how to put it behind a paywall, we would. We just not that smart.
Yeah, they're like, damn, thanks a lot, Gene. We were going to drop our Patreon at the end of this episode, but now we're going to be dicks. We got to push it off a little while.
Join this thing called OnlyFans that we're putting it all
Join
over.
us on OnlyFans, where every P3 Radio episode, except the Danny Davis one now, it's behind a paywall. You can even hear the one with the spellbinder, brother.
Yeah. He's on there.
Yeah.
That's a good one too. I'll listen to
Jeff
that
Jarrett.
one as well. So, Jeff Jarrett.
Steve Brown.
Ryan
Christopher.
Yeah.
Show me a
Another podcast in there with P3 Radio in there. All right, God, so me and these guys we were supposed to start this thing at 11. We've been BSing for an hour off the air, and now we start recording, and now we're continuing our nonsense for another 6 minutes. So without further ado, because I've been told that many of you in the audience do not like ado at all, so let's stop it. Dave and Corey start the show by letting us know what to expect today, and then they cut to Mike Samples, Brian Christopher, Scotty Flamingo, and the Harlem Knights, who are posted up for what Dave refers to as a photo opportunity, but he tells us so far there hasn't been any takers. So I guess we're supposed to be led to believe that these guys are over here chilling on a couch or a bench or something in the studio, and that the studio audience had the option to just cross over in front of the desk where the main camera would be and get their picture made in a photo op with what we're now being told is dubbed as the First Family. And if that sounds familiar to you, it's probably because it was famously the name of Jimmy Hart's stable in Memphis in the 80s. What do you guys think of this whole opening bit here with the new First Family?
I thought it was hilarious, man, because, you know, as we've seen in the past, Brian and Scotty and Mike Samples, they're all like just comedic people from time to time, and they kill when they do it. And this was, you know, in jest, but still, I remember being 10, 11, however old I was at this time, just eating it up, dude. I thought this was hilarious. And I just wanted to, I wondered rather, what would have happened if, say, some kids wanted to cross through like you were talking about, and actually did. Big Ernie going to stop them, or is he going to let them go over there and take a picture?
I have to believe that Big Ernie's already told him, like, no, y'all can't go there. Because there had, of all those kids in the studio, like if the three of us would have been there, I know at least two of us, i.e. me and Josh, would have been rushing over there to get a picture with those guys. And I have a sneaking suspicion Mike Samples still would have went ahead and let us take the picture. And I also think that perhaps even Richard Lee himself might have come over there and took a picture, but he probably would have asked Mike Samples, hey, man, could you like go over there for a minute and
ask him to take the picture?
Like, Mike, could you snap this picture for us there, brother? Yeah, I thought that I liked the segment, but I don't love them using the First Family name just because that was such a prominent group for years. Richard, do you have a take on as far as the First Family name of it, or any of that for that matter?
I hate it in wrestling when people. I mean, I know everything in wrestling is reused. I get it, but to the extent of the exact same name and the exact same company, a couple years later, with no nod to the original first family, I feel like no thought went into that at all. It's like, what can we call ourselves? First family, cool. We've already done that. Now we're doing it again.
And somehow I feel like Scotty was like second family. And they're like, no, it's not the same.
But this was back in the time to where like the notion was like, oh, they don't remember that shit.
Yeah,
they truly believe. A lot of people truly believe that, and a lot of people didn't. But people like us, of course, we remember.
I find it funny because I know that for a fact. I've experienced that when I was involved with wrestling, as the preeminent attitude was, they're not going to remember. They're not going to remember. But then at certain points, they would totally hang their hat. All the business would depend on everybody remembering. Like, they don't remember. They don't remember. Oh, they're not going to remember the first family. And then 6 months from now, we've got the big Legends show coming up where we're going to bring back, Sputnik Monroe and guys that weren't even around during the first family. It was 15 years before the first family, and we expect you to remember that, but you're not supposed to remember we're using Jimmy Hart's staple name here.
Right.
It's just kind of weird. It's not a horrible offense or anything, but just as soon as they said the name, I had forgotten that's what they used, and as soon as they said it, I was like, really?
Yeah.
But we'll move past it. After the first break, we open the show with the now, once again, surprise, surprise, USWA Tag Team Champions, the Moondogs, along with Richard Lee. And, last week we talked about the fact that we were happy that Mike Samples wasn't managing Brian Christopher and Scotty Flamingo because it kept Samples and Richard Lee apart. And apparently, once again, we jinxed ourselves because every time we say things like this, the next week it happens. So sure enough, Richard Lee comes out this week, immediately starts cutting a promo on Mike Samples and saying how everyone in his first family who wants to come after his dog's tag team titles can come on. So then we head to the ring for this week's Moondog Squash of the Week, and Mr. Clyde has drawn the short straw 2 weeks in a row. He is back in here again this week. This week, he's tagging up with the human crash test dummy. I've dubbed him Mr. Todd Johnson, who I'm just convinced somebody in the USWA did not like poor Todd Johnson because he ends up in some of the most brutal beatdowns. But he's wrestled the Moondogs and the Bruise Brothers more than any other single person on this show. Or is that just me?
No, he gets his ass kicked gloriously, dude. And that bump that he took like for the camera, like it was only a middle rope bump, but still he just absolutely flat backed himself onto that concrete that made a good splat.
Yeah, I want to say that Mr. Clyde lied on his resume when he said can take a bump through the middle rope. I don't know what he was trying to do there, but it was awkward as hell when the match started, and he was like landed on the rope like he was trying to bounce off of it.
That's true. Bless his heart. He tries. He sure tries. But and I'm not saying this wasn't a spectacular beating, and there was some fun things in there, like Richard just pointed out. But I didn't pull a clip of it because I feel like we've seen some Moondog squashes. We've even seen him squash Mr. Clyde. So I didn't think we needed to go back to that this quick. But Richard Lee reveals during commentary that the Moondogs are going to be facing the Harlem Knights this Monday night, which sounds interesting to me. How do you guys feel about the prospect of a Moondogs Harlem Knights match?
Does anybody have a MIG welder? That ring is going to fall apart.
Yeah.
But, think about it. If nobody seems to have had like great success with the Harlem Knights as of yet. But if anybody could beat their ass, it may be the Moondogs with all the weapons. So, I mean, it's logical to think that this will be the biggest fight that the Harlem Knights have faced so far.
Oh, yeah. We're going to find out how tough these guys are. We've seen what they can do to enhancement guys and squashing them and doing, all their arsenal of moves each week in and week out. Size-wise, it's kind of wild when you look at it. Spot and Bobby Knight pair up pretty well size-wise, and Splat almost, not quite, but he pairs up as better than anyone else on the USWA roster with Nelson Knight. So if you had to look up and down the card and be like, man, who would be the dream match of two guys that could give the Harlem Knights a run for their money? it's got to be the Moondogs. And by the same token, you look up and down the card and be like, hey, who could give the Moondogs a run for their money? Because apparently Brian Christopher and a partner can beat them once.
Right.
And then immediately turn around and lose the following week, as he and the Big Black Dog won the belts one week. They turn around and lost them the following week. Then the next week, he and Scotty Flamingo won the belts. They turn around and lost them the following week. So I don't know. If you kind of watch the pattern, I'd say the Harlem Knights have a pretty good shot this week. I don't know, guys. Cross your fingers. But we take a break, and then we return to the familiar tune of Back to the Hotel. So you know what that means. Harlem Knights have arrived. We're going to be seeing them early, and they got Mike Samples with them. Bobby Knight has a bandage on his cheek where he got burned last week on television. Nelson Knight has a bandage on his forehead, so I can only assume he got his forehead burnt last Monday night at the Coliseum. We'll see if that plays out later in the show. I don't know. But we've been kind of keeping a running opinion on this. What do you guys think of the solid black gear that we're sporting this week?
I liked it better than the Kool-Aid Man outfits that were in the first week with the red, and the blue was nice. The blue was nice. Was he wearing the red when he broke the ring?
I think he was, ironically.
Awesome. But yeah, the all black looks more heelish. It looks, and it's slimming in a way, you know, as any big guy will tell you, black slims. Yes. So they looked more in shape, more ready to go. I actually liked it. I'm kind of a gear snob anyway, so we focus on that a lot.
Yeah. And I was just happy that it's something different, and that makes it 3-4 weeks in a row that it's been something different. And you know, there's nothing I hate worse than like seeing the same gear all the time on the same guy. Like if you wear something different to TV every time, that sticks out to me.
Especially when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, that really, like, I really paid attention to the gear. I'm like, oh, go look there, well, that's cool. Or God, he wore that for the last 6 weeks, you know. So glad to know I wasn't just a weirdo that paid attention to gear, and that even now we still pay attention to it. And yeah, that really caught my eye. That they've been, even when, like, you know, we pointed out the one week they had a match, and then they came back out later in the show with Brian to do a distraction, and they were wearing something different then. And you figured big guys like that, you're going to have to spend some money to get your gear made. And so you think, they're probably going to get one set of gear and just always wear it. But no, they've been sporting something different. Guy even got like matching boots in some cases. They had the blue boots with the blue and black gear. So I'm with you though. I do like the solid black. I just think it looks tougher. And it's funny, you know, we talked about before we started the show. I told the guys about a take that my wife had watching this with me that exactly matched Richard's on the chyrons on the screen about when they show the matches for Monday nights, when the names are all capital letters. I think you guys remember Richard pointing that out a while back. Well, the first time she was watching this with me and the Harlem Knights come out, she's like, or are they supposed to be doing some kind of stupid futuristic gimmick or something with those headbands? It looks like when they would show people, like when you watch 80s movies and it was supposed to be people in the 2000s. And I was like, once again, that's another Richard Lee take. like that's crazy. Y'all are on the same wavelength there, but
we'd be best friends.
Yes, y'all can totally bond over USWA wrestling from the 90s, as odd as that sounds. But I do think the all black look for the Harlem Knights is just a tougher look than the, hey, we're from, you know, the 80s view of the future. We came from a Terminator movie from, you know, 82. But we get the typical Samples promo here again. I don't feel we need a clip. But you know me, if there's a Harlem Knights match, I'm going to make you see some highlights of it. So as they take on TD Steele and Jerry Turman, let's see a clip of the Harlem Knights in action and continue to follow their progress as they get into their, I don't know how many matches we are. We're about 5 matches on TV now, but they've been working the circuit. So they're gaining experience, and they seem to be getting a little better each week. Let's see if this week matches the previous.
And we are just about set for action as Mike Samples is over at ringside. Yeah, TD Steele and Jerry Turman jump in there, Dave, and they get jumped immediately on these big Harlem Knights. From the bad streets of Harlem, New York, Bobby and Nelson Knight, all the way to 160 pounds, and these guys can't go, let me tell you. Men are master artists. Watch the way double drop kicks by huge men. We'll see about that. These guys, in fact, oh, look at that. My goodness. Boy, was that no, well, you've got a point, but the Moondogs have pointed out, Richard Lee said right out here, if it takes the steel chairs, that's what they'll use. They do for them is their unpredictability. But now, you know, I know the Moondogs. I've been in the ring with them. So that's predictable. Unpredictability is now predictable. So the Moondogs don't have a chance. Watch this, Dave.
Well, that's your opinion, Mike Sample.
That's, yeah, the word according to Mike Samples here. Some of that some of it did make sense, and some of it I'm still going to have to try to figure out there, Mike, what you're talking about. But up on the middle rope, look out, 500.
Oh, boy.
525 pounds, right down on Jerry Turman's midsection. Look at this.
Oh,
Dave
boy.
Brown, they splashed that man perfectly. In order to splash a man, you've got to get him down.
Wow. So what do you think? Are we still progressing upward with these guys?
100%, man. Like I was telling Richard while we were watching the clips, this was my second favorite match of the show today. Like, seriously, it was timed perfectly. They didn't do any repeats of their moves, no do's, none of that shit.
Somebody got to talk.
That was noticeable.
Yeah.
and they did everything the right order. It just felt right, man. And they didn't really screw up anything. The only thing that I noticed that I didn't like was like in the very beginning when you had Mo, he was tied up with TD and he got him in the choke or whatever it was. And he had his knees bending back. He kind of threw him where it would break his knee, you know, instead of throwing him the opposite way. But I mean, you know, something that small, and TD kind of powered out of it in a way to where he didn't roll his knee. So, but yeah, that's my only complaint, but I liked it.
Yeah. That was the first thing I thought when I was watching this match. I was like, have I gone deaf? Like, what? Yeah. I'm not hearing the do's. And I was like, oh, they got a talking to in the back.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you. After
last week's was the worst of all. It was constant through the promo, through the match. Like if they were on screen, you were hearing that. Like,
yeah, he's selling the burn, and he's like, "Do, do." It's like, okay, you know, somebody in the back is like, "Cut that shit out."
Yeah, I feel like Eddie Marlin's like, "No, just stop."
Maybe it was Mike Samples, dude.
It might have been because Mike's the new piece of the equation. I gotta say, I did enjoy Mike's little rant there about how the Moondogs' unpredictability is predictable. So that means that they can predict their unpredictability. Therefore, they can't beat the Harlem Knights.
Oh, maybe somebody threatened to burn his tongue. That's all. Maybe Eddie Marlin's in the back holding vice grips. I'm gonna tell you something. You say "do" one more time.
Well, whoever shut that down.
Yeah. Yes.
We owe you a debt of gratitude. You did great. And I don't know if you guys noticed there, but producer Smokey has found a new transition in those videos where the clips, they move along pretty fast there. So kudos to producer Smokey who does the editing.
I will also say this. The store manager they were beaten up in there. The one that kind of looked like
Jerry Turman.
Yeah, he runs a cult in his spare time, it looks like. Or he's a store manager. He took an ass kicking on that splash. Not the first one. The first one looked snug, but that second one looked vicious. And
it absolutely did.
I kudos to him for taking that, you know, and he even got into position for it, which I thought was kind of funny. He wiggles in like, "Ooh, that's a little too far for him. I ain't missing work on Monday." But yeah, those splash, everything about this, I know I've been negative in the past. But everything about this match says we are improving, we're getting better, we're learning TV better, and to do this in such a quick time, kudos to those guys because they're learning trial by fire, and not everybody adapts that way. I mean, look, the Big Black Dog isn't here anymore. There's so many other wrestlers that aren't there anymore because they couldn't adapt, and these guys adapted well to it.
And you know what? I give a lot of props to Nelson Knight for being willing to climb back up on that second rope. Man, when he come down on his leg that last time when that rope broke, that was so ugly. It could have very easily been a Sid Vicious and WCW situation where you snapped the freaking bone in two. So to trust a USWA ring to climb back up there and get on that horse again, I don't know that I could have done it. So when he started climbing up, I was like, oh my God, dude, don't do that. Don't do that. And then it paid off. He hit the big splash. Like I said, Jerry Turman had lined himself just right because, and I want to mention too, we want to thank our sponsor for this week, Jerry Turman's vape and CBD store. And
he looks like the villain on any movie about Christmas, the one that's trying to fire Santa Claus from the mall. Like he looks that way. I can't put my finger on the exact look. I want to say it's like Out of Work Jesus, but I don't know.
It's hard times, Jesus, baby.
you need to know, baby. I died for your sins.
Yeah. We're a little too heavy on the wine.
Jesus, we don't need no savior. Get on out of here. Didn't even give him a gold watch.
That's a pretty funny scenario. That's getting off in the weeds. Never mind.
Yeah, we're what we started off with, and now we're making unemployed Jesus jokes. This show is making hard left turn. We're sorry, folks. Don't leave us.
Yeah.
As we return from the break, Scotty Flamingo comes out to talk about his upcoming unified world title match against the King this week. So, Scotty Flamingo, he's coming in. He immediately jumps into a tag team title shot, wins the tag team titles, and yeah, sure, they only hold him a week, but this is USWA. It happens. Yeah. But now he's jumping right out of a tag team title run. He's got a shot against the unified world champion. We're about to take a look at a clip, and I usually don't discuss the clips before, but I've got to ask, what did you guys think of them dance moves at the beginning of this clip? My wife said, "Is he trying to be Gerardo, that guy? What was his big song in the 90s?
Rico
Suave.
Yeah.
She's like, is he trying to be Rico Suave? I'm like, I don't know. The headband, the dance, like, at least he wasn't doing a fake accent, but everything else, he was pretty spot on.
Yeah, I always thought that as a kid, that he was doing the Rico Suave gimmick. But I think I sent a message to you that said that dance made Boy Tony look like a lumberjack gimmick. Like, even
which is why I mentioned it first, because I was like, he's got to use that line on the show. I don't want to steal it, so I'm gonna give him his opportunity. If he doesn't use it, then I'm stealing it. So good.
There's the chat that we have going on to the week would get us all canceled and fired.
Oh yeah, if you think anything we say on the show is remotely disturbing, God help us. If our text chain ever gets subpoenaed, oh boy.
Yeah, we're all in the unemployment line without a work Jesus.
Let's hope that Bobby Knight's attorney that got y'all to talk good about him this week doesn't subpoena our text chain.
So honestly, I with the rapping and stuff,
yeah,
I had this like theory. It's almost like Scotty Flamingo is if Adrian Street would have came out in the 90s. You know what I mean? With the whole kind of androgynous type thing going on with the snapping and the, just the tights, they're so high riding and all that
knee
stuff.
pads. That's what made it weird.
Yeah.
No knee pads.
Just his whole persona. It's like got those Adrian Street vibes or whatever with the music and the rapping and stuff.
Yeah, it's weird because like it's got the Adrian Street vibe, but like I say, then he's got kind of the homeboy rap too. Like it's two polar opposite.
It was what was hot in the 90s musically, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's hear. Let's show folks what we're talking about here, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it before we move on. But let's check out Scotty Flamingo.
Bingo has just arrived in the area right here.
Before I say anything else, I'm begging these people in Memphis, I'm begging them to get to see a dental hygienist and do something about their teeth problems. There's yellow teeth, there's missing teeth, and frankly, it disgusts me. But now, on to more important things. First of all, the first family. Mike Samples has assembled the finest crew in professional wrestling. Myself, of course. Brian Christopher, the prettiest man in professional wrestling, other than myself, and the Harlem Knights, the single most dynamic monster force I've ever seen. They're like 800 combined pounds. You see the way they splattered that guy earlier? It was tremendous. And now, the most important thing of all, Monday night in Memphis, me and the King are going to get it down. The unified world title, Scotty Flamingo. That's why I'm here. You see, I already won the world tag team titles. Now I'm going to take the world unified title from Jerry the King Lawler. And I got to say this. The King's got so much glass in his jaw, that thing ought to be a chandelier, man. I'm telling you, I'm going to knock him out, so I'm going to waffle him, Dave Brown. I'm going to waffle him. I'm going to take the King. Hey, shut up. Hey, you tell the people to be quiet, Dave Brown, when I'm talking.
Hey, the people know what you're saying about Jerry Lawler. They know all the people who have been in here trying to defeat the King and take the belt haven't been able to do it.
We're all local stars. I'm a big national TV star. Everybody knows from World Championship Wrestling TV, Scotty Flamingo. That's the reason I'm here, man. Hold for hold, move for move, and counter for counter. Scotty Flamingo is the single greatest. Hey, shut up. I'm the single greatest wrestler in the sport. King, there ain't nothing you can't do to me. I can take anything you got. I can put you in any kind of hold, any kind of move you've got. I've got to counter, because I'm Scotty Flamingo, the fresh thing in town. Listen to this rhyme, because I'm going to throw down. If you don't like me and you feel kind of froggy, well, jump in my face, King, and I'll leave you groggy. I'm the king in the ring with a belt, not a crown. And when I'm in the spotlight, I'm the toughest thing around. If you ever had to face me Monday night, you will be leaving town, because weebles wobble, but I don't fall down. Word.
Oh, my God.
No. Oh, no. Oh, no. Hey.
Okay, so PN News had yo, baby, yo. And that's the second time we've heard Scotty say weebles wobbles, but I don't fall down. So clearly that's his catchphrase for raps. All I can say is if you take the dance moves, you take the raps, that 1996 Raven would have kicked the shit out of 1993 Scotty Flamingo. He would have hated that guy. Such a departure from what. If you're a fan who did not know Scott Levy until you saw Raven, you would never believe that he could have pulled off Scotty the Body. And if you guys are the people listening and watching, if you've never seen Scotty the Body in Portland, when Scott Levy was in Portland, Scotty Flamingo was basically that character, but he had a lot more TV time. He did announcing, and he had some really fun angles up there, like the whole Veronica angle where he's trying to get her to marry him. And he used to come out to that Dino song, "That's the Way It Has to Be, because that's the way I like it." And he would do that dance that he was doing when he first came out, but it was a lot longer sequence because they would play that song as he came to the ring. He had two girls with him who danced in it was like a dance routine. It wasn't just like he stopped and did that little move he did there. It was a whole choreograph, like it was like in living color or something. And they would do that. They would do that dance to that song. It's wild, but he did a lot of fun stuff there. So if you haven't seen that, go on YouTube and just search Scotty the Body Portland Wrestling, and there's a ton of fun stuff there for you to check out.
Did Sable not do that exact same dance when she did It's Time to Do the Grind?
Oh, yeah.
Her hips, and I think it was the same dance.
It was similar. It was too similar.
Yeah,
honestly,
I will say this
ruined Sable for a lot of people. Or you may have made Scotty Flamingo better for a lot of people. I don't know. It's 2024. I don't know anymore.
Either way, it wants what it wants. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, but no, what I was gonna say was, in that 2 minutes, Scotty Flamingo talked more than and Corey Macklin the whole show. Like, I feel like word for word, he probably fit 40,000 words into that 2 minutes. He was like the Micro Machines man.
He definitely felt like he'd been to the Jim Cornette promo school where you get, you're like, you got 2 minutes. Well, I want to fit a 6-minute promo in this 2 minutes. Don't worry. Where later in the show, we're going to see a 6-minute promo that felt like 2 hours from another guy, but we'll get there.
Oh, man. I already know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. God help us. And I feel like we have to blame Eddie Gilbert for quitting, and that's why this guy suddenly showed up, but we'll get there. So after Dave and Corey give their first rundown of the Mid-South Coliseum card of the day, and as always, we'll hear that at the end of the show. We hear from the King in response to what we just heard from Mr. Flamingo. Let's hear a little bit of Jerry Lawler's response to Scotty Flamingo in reference to their upcoming unified title match at the Coliseum.
Hands are on your side, undoubtedly.
Well, you know, I stood in the back there and I watched the monitor. I listened to Scotty the Body Flamingo. Now, that's sort of a contradiction in itself. He calls himself Scotty the Body Flamingo. Has anybody ever seen a flamingo? Well, a flamingo, a lot of times you see them, they have little statues of them out in people's front yards, you know? And it's one of those little pink birds with a real long, skinny neck and a couple of little stick legs like Scotty the Body has, you know, little bird legs. And he talks about how tough he is, and yet he's a flamingo. Well, Scotty, I'm sorry. I'm not very impressed. I'm not really very scared. As you can see, my legs, my knees are not knocking out here like you thought they would be. Now, it's true. You were down in the Global Wrestling Organization, and he was in the World Championship Wrestling, WCW. Is they still in business? I don't know. But anyway.
King.
Whoa. So Lawler has some fun with Flamingo, comparing him to an actual flamingo, and then manages to throw some shade at WCW in the process, asking Dave if they're still in business. What do you guys think of the first promo of the day from the King?
Any of y'all ever seen a flamingo?
No.
Nobody said yes. So it's like, okay.
Y'all don't
what's a
vacation
bird
at all?
Tiny legs.
No, King. I don't know if you noticed there's no flamingos at Mud Island down there. Like,
is it kind of like a crane? Yeah, a little bit. It's pink.
You low budgets ain't paying to get into the zoo, so I know you ain't seen one.
Y'all throwing my promo off. Just agree with me.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. Is it because he's working for WWF at this point? And he's throwing all that maybe shade, you know, on WCW. I mean, it was a political disaster at WCW during this time period, but you know, still, like you got to think, like, well, he's not shitting on WWF in this promo, and he didn't necessarily have to on WCW.
I'm sure he did it for that reason, because what's interesting is I figured Flamingo was completely out of WCW by the time he came to Memphis, considering their ties to WWF.
Right.
But the reason Scotty came in, wrestled Jeff Jarrett, and then wasn't here for a week or two, he went on a European tour with WCW. So technically, he was still employed by WCW. They just didn't really have his plans for him. So they sent him to Europe. Then he comes back, and he comes back to Memphis, does this stint here with the First Family. So I guess maybe that was just Lawler's way of, you know, taking a shot at him just to show WWF, like, hey, you're our priority. We're just using this guy. We're not, you know, we're not in bed with WCW. It's the only thing I can figure. I don't know, but it just felt kind of out of place. But then again, I mean, hell, Lawler for years was always taking shots at the WWF at any promotion that wasn't Memphis. And now that they're working with WWF, obviously they're going to take shots at the quote unquote competition, even though at this point, 93, there really wasn't much competition happening there. So, but yeah, fun interview from the King. Where he's, you know, go ahead.
Did you notice that Lawler was dressed up like to the nines? And then I figured out why. He mentions Macho Man later on. He's like, if I'm going to mention that son of a bitch, I'm going to have a well-tailored cape and outfit on.
Just in case. He's like this Joe Hendry guy that, like, you say his name and he appears, you know.
Right. Can I mention this, though, about this whole promo thing? So I was getting this sense while I was watching this back, and, you know, it was kind of disappointing in a way thinking about it like this. But you know how it was like the Monster Factory for a while with Lawler versus the Giant Heel of the Week, or their 2-week, 3-week run or whatever, you know. But with this Scotty the Body thing, like it just, there doesn't feel like there's any urgency to this. It just feels like Lawler's just going to go out there, probably beat him up. He may face some, you know, bullshit at the end, but ultimately he's going to come out on top. It just, there's no like seriousness attached to this main event at all. It doesn't feel like a good, I'm doing my two fingers, a good Memphis main event.
You know, and they were guilty of this all the way back to 85. Me and Ray Russell's talked about this on the regional wrestling, doing some of the 85 stuff, is there's weeks where Lawler and company are invested, and they come out there and they sell you on the idea that, oh my God, Jerry Lawler may die Monday night. There's no way he's going to leave with the title because Leatherface is here, or, you know, whoever it may be, even if it's, whether it's a big guy like Leatherface or it's Austin Idol or Eddie Gilbert or whoever. And then there's weeks like this where it's just like, yeah, so this is who I'm wrestling this week. Like, this is the Lawler match this week, but there's no stakes. There's no any kind of a threat of like, I don't know, man, this Scotty the Body, he's been in WCW. He's been around the world. He's got experience. You know, my title could be in jeopardy. I'm going to need you fans to come out and support me. But no, he comes out and makes fun of his body and, you know, basically makes a joke out of him. And he's from a promotion that's probably not even still in business. And it's just like, it's a weird, exactly like you're saying, it's a weird way to sell tickets, because it's like, listening to that promo, I have no doubt that this is just another match for Lawler, as if he was wrestling Freezer Thompson or Jerry Turman. Like, it's just the guy he's wrestling this week, and I should not be impressed. And yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because you're 100% accurate. And like I said, there was even, like we were talking about in 85, like the week that Lawler wrestled Eddie Gilbert, where Jimmy Hart had to leave the territory, was one of the least inspired promos that Lawler ever gave. Like, he didn't come out there and he really didn't feel like he gave a shit about that match or that it really mattered. And then fast forward a few weeks later, he had a big world title match against Nick Bockwinkel. You know, that was always the thing, Jerry Lawler wants the world title. And he usually would, you know, man, he'd come out there and build the stakes. Those, man, I've been fighting for 15 years to win this world title, and if I don't win it this Monday night, you know. And he's just like, yeah, I'm wrestling Nick Bockwinkel for the AWA title this week. And it will be down in Jonesboro this afternoon playing softball. And like, it was just an afterthought. And then the following week, they come back in a freaking AWA world title Texas death match with Nick freaking, like, when have you ever heard the words Nick Bockwinkel and Texas death match in the same sentence? And he's still like with the same amount of enthusiasm. It's like, yeah, I'm only wrestling Bockwinkel down there in a Texas death match, but tonight we're going to have a tag team match in Nashville and blah, blah, blah. It's just, he really wasn't into it. And this is definitely one of those weeks where it just seems like it's just, you know, he's on autopilot. You know, he comes out and makes fun of him, and then he's going to get down to the real business later and come back out and talk about what he's really here to talk about. Won't spoil that. We'll get there in a minute. But I tell you what, let's take a quick podcast commercial break. Let's hear from a few of our sponsors, and then we'll come back and we'll get to what we really want to hear about, that Intercontinental title match last week between Jeff Jarrett and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, when we come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
This is Wrestling Nostalgia, the podcast that dives into wrestling history. Hey, wrestling fans, I'm Dave Dynasty, and if you enjoy podcasts that are knowledgeable and history-driven, then Wrestling Nostalgia is for you. With great guests and fun interviews, there are over 200 episodes in our archives. We chat with several first-time guests and often cover topics not discussed on other podcasts. Look up Wrestling Nostalgia on your favorite podcast platform and visit all of our links at linktree/WrestlePod. That is linktr.ee/RASSLEPOD. And remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, be good, be safe, and keep on growing.
So before the break, we were kind of talking about how, you know, Jerry Lawler really didn't make us feel like Scotty Flamingo was a big threat and that this was really a big deal of a match. But I will say, Jeff Jarrett did a really good job last week of really laying out what a big deal it was for Shawn Michaels to be coming to town, for him to be getting this Intercontinental title shot, how it even came about that he went down to the pyramid and issued this challenge to Bret Hart and all this. And the match happened. Let's take a look at the highlights, and then I'm interested in hearing you guys' thoughts on the highlights of the match and just how the whole thing came off and where it leaves us on the other side of it.
I make them hot. I make them shiver. Then if you weak, they're alive. And see me walk. And here they come. I make them feel like they're all cloud nine.
Shawn Michaels standing in. Tangles up with Jeff Jarrett. Bags Jeff up against the turnbuckles. Oh, just shoves Jeff. And look at Jeff. It's over. Comes back and Jeff takes him. Oh, boy. Shawn Michaels hung on. Flips over the top rope. Turns around and a big drop kick. Oh, boy. Look at Jeff Jarrett go. There goes Michaels. That time he doesn't hang on. Slips Jeff into the rope. Nails Jeff Jarrett with a big right hand. Gets enough strength. Gets on his feet. Nails away on Michaels. Again he clobbers Shawn. Jarrett. Big drop kick sends Shawn Michaels down. Whips him into the rope. He's got him covered. 1, 2. Jeff Jarrett on that top rope. Price, look at here. Oh, but Michaels pulls him over. Oh, boy. Oh, Jarrett could have had it. Oh, he goes for the kick. Jeff gets out of the way. And he kicks referee Paul Neighbors. Oh, boy. Here comes trouble. And find Christopher. He's up on the top rope. Oh! But Jeff Jarrett catches him. He nails Christopher. Picks the chain up. Nails Christopher with it. Comes off the ropes on Michael. Throws the chain out. Tosses it down. He's got him covered. But there's no referee to count him. Oh, boy. Christopher with another chain. Out. Michaels has him covered. 2 and 3.
All right. What are you guys' thoughts of that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I told Richard while we were watching it back, I said, dude, watching Shawn in this match makes everybody else that we've watched on any of these highlights so far look like shit. I mean, every single thing that Shawn does, whether it's bumping, selling, anything, it is so precise. It looks so natural, so fluid. Like he's head and shoulders skill wise above everybody else, but at the same time, I mean, Jeff and him meshed so well rather,
Oh, yeah.
it was a good back and forth. And like the way the finish went was how a person like Shawn coming into the territory is supposed to win. Yeah. Just skin of his teeth, fucking hand on him because he's out of it himself. He made Jeff look good, and that's what I'm saying. Even though Shawn, his skill level and everything is so much head and shoulders above everybody else, he still made Jeff look so good.
Yeah, I mean, they would actually go on to have the same match in reverse where Shawn was the baby and Jeff was the heel in WWE. It's like one of the great matches in WWE history for the Intercontinental title. In your house when I think Jeff was actually leaving the territory at the time, wasn't he? But
so, yeah.
It was.
Well, they didn't know that until he walked out at the end of the night. Him and Road Dogg.
But it was one of my favorite matches of all time. It's like these two do have a chemistry together, and like Josh said, we were just in awe of how well this match looked. except for cutting to the crowd member when Brian got hit with the chain. The only thing I can think of is maybe the chain shot didn't look as impressive, and they were like, show those women in the front row right there.
Has to be, 'cause that's a key point in the match, and you cut away. I'm like, what do we do that? But
I was
if you've
watching
ever,
this in my living room probably at midnight last night. And whenever they did the cut, I audibly, what the fuck? Woke everybody up probably. But that's how enraged I was with that cut.
Yeah.
And it had to have been just bad looking.
absolutely had to. But yeah, this had to be one of the best matches the fans had seen at the Mid-South Coliseum in probably years at this point. And you made a great point there, and it's the reason that it frustrates me that they go to the well on these screwy finishes as often as they do, because this was the moment you need that run-in finish, like you say, where Jeff Jarrett's going to win the WWF Intercontinental title right there in Memphis, but damn, Brian Christopher sticks his nose in, Shawn escapes by the skin of his teeth. Now we're ready to circle back to the Jeff Jarrett versus Brian Christopher feud, which ordinarily would feel like, we just saw a lot of that. But kayfabe-wise, to the fans, Jeff Jarrett was going to win the WWF Intercontinental title. We saw it, and Brian Christopher cost him. What bigger stakes could you put on a match at that point in their careers than that? So it's the perfect opportunity for Brian to run in, use that chain, screw Jeff. Shawn keeps the title after having a great match. And if you've seen the longer clips of this match, and I've never seen the whole match, but I've seen longer than what they showed on this show, that match seemed to be on par with like the In Your House match that Richard referenced. Like, it was a Shawn Michaels match. It wasn't a Shawn Michaels Memphis match where we walk and talk and he pulled my hair and he pulled my tights for 20 minutes and then we go into the finish. Like, they worked, like they put on a Shawn Michaels Jeff Jarrett match. And, that's the reason I think that they needed to do more clean finishes, so that when they pulled this out and it needed to mean something, it would mean more. But it served its purpose. And ordinarily, if we already went back to a feud like this, where it's like, God dang, man, we ended 92 with Jeff and Brian. We did the first 2.5 months of 93 with Jeff and Brian. They put the Southern title and hair and all this shit up week in and week out, weekend. But now, if we're a Jeff Jarrett fan, we want to see him get revenge on Brian for costing him that huge opportunity. So, Jeff comes back out and cuts another promo, and he confirms our suspicions. He wants revenge on Brian Christopher. He recounts the story again about going down to the pyramid and buying what he hopes to be his last ticket he ever purchases in his life for a wrestling show, which I'm sure it probably was, and how he issued the challenge to Bret Hart and outlined how bad, Brian had screwed him by interfering in the match. So I think that was all from the match to the finish, besides the chain shot that they had clearly had to cut out. And then Jeff's promo here was all very well executed. So are you guys like me? Does the way this played out, are you okay with us going back to the well with Jeff and Brian?
Yeah, I think that's the best. Who else do we have right now that could go up against Jeff? Who have we built? I think in theory you could have done Eddie here if Eddie was still here, but they don't have that. So, I mean, who else are you going to pull up that's going to be believable, that's going to carry a feud with Jeff at this point?
Well, and they've had so much history so far, and Brian's ruined so much of Jeff's stuff, coming up to this. It's like he was the logical option. And, like Gene was saying, I mean, like, this Intercontinental title shot was everything up until this point, and Brian shit all over it. So yeah, like, I completely makes sense to go right back into it for a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, in most fans' eyes, the WWF Intercontinental title match here probably means more than every AWA World title match that had ever took place at the Mid-South Coliseum, realistically, given how people viewed the WWF and the big scheme of hierarchy in professional wrestling. So, of course, we hear from Jeff, so it's time. We go to a break, we come back. Brian Christopher comes out to give us the other side of the coin to what we just heard from Jeff. Brian says the only thing about Jeff Jarrett that scares him is his bleach blonde hair. I don't really know what the hell that's supposed to mean. I don't know what's scary about bleach blonde hair. He goes on to say that he hates sissies and that Jeff Jarrett is a sissy boy and a spoiled brat, and that on Monday night he will end Jeff's career and take his Southern Heavyweight title. What did you guys think about the promo from Brian here?
Brian's gold. I mean, let's be honest. He really knew how to say things that would get under your skin, especially for me as a kid, watching that. I'm like, really? The guy that comes out, kisses his muscles and licks all over his arms, he's going to say he's a sissy,
Yeah, the guy that spent the entire episode hugging another dude last week, calling somebody a sissy boy.
Yeah, they hugged more than I have actually hugged my biological father, which isn't saying much. He took off when I was young. But anyways.
Probably your mother for that matter, though.
Yeah,
that was a lot of hugging. It was a lot of
hugs. So
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm just joking. No, but the audacity of saying that as a kid, I would have I remember being livid watching this back, and I'm like, how in the world is he talking about Jeff Jarrett? Attack the DDT. Attack that video that showed you do not attack that man's perfectly bleached blonde hair. That's where I draw the line, Mr. Christopher. And I will pay my money to see him whip your ass.
But that's what I love about Brian is he's such a natural heel. Like you'll never get me to believe that those promos come. And I'm not saying that he didn't, but I don't think those promos were a result of Brian studying heel promos throughout his life and figuring out the psychology of it. It was just because Brian knew how to push people's buttons and he knew how to get under people's skin. Just Brian Lawler, the person, not the wrestler, not the character. Brian was that guy, right? I mean, that's your experience with him. I'm not saying he's a bad dude, but I'm saying it's just his personality. It's who he is.
Well, I've heard stories of how Brian was before wrestling, in his teenage years and stuff. And it correlates with all of this shit. Like that was him. But to his credit, for every ass whipping story that I've heard, he never changed. He would be back the next day in school being the same fucking way. So, I mean, he's consistent.
I will say this about Brian, at the same extent there. I remember when we were kids, Brian had that personality where he could be that heel. But me and Josh are sitting at a high school, and one of our friends, Brian, comes out, and he's Southern heavyweight champion at the time. I can't remember what championship he had, but one of the kids in the crowd with us said, "Hey, can we hold your belt?" He's like, "Let that kid hold my belt." And we were holding so we've got pictures of this title somewhere where we're all just holding it. We're not paying attention to the match at all. And then afterwards, he's the only one I can remember that stayed and signed autographs and talked to all the fans.
It was him and Lawler.
Him and Lawler. And I mean, and I, in wrestling with him later on, those same times where you'd be like, man, I want to choke this dude because he's so annoying right now. He'd also go and there's a disabled kid that just looks up to him and he goes and plays video games with him that night, at his back at his house. It's like he always had that heart of gold, but at the same time, he knew how to turn it on and really get under your skin.
Well, and that's what makes you appreciate that kind of stuff. Cause he had that natural ability to be a heel, but deep down, he was a good guy. So that's what makes it fun. Well, that's why we're not sitting here going, oh, that prick. He was such a, it's like, he was good at what he did because he
very good.
It was natural, but at the same time, I mean, Doug Gilbert's been very adamant on his podcast, the couple times we've talked about Brian, and I've said that about, him being good at getting people under people's skin. And Doug's like, yeah, he definitely was. He said, but make no mistake. He's like, Brian's one of the best people I've ever known and one of my best friends. And everybody who truly knows him, they always follow that up and make sure that's known. So it tells you a lot about him. I like hearing that. And so it's kind of interesting. Match number 3 here is Brian Christopher against Tony Williams. So anybody that's been watching the show for a while, they know. And if they don't know, they actually acknowledge it here on commentary that Tony is Brian's former tag team partner, which of course they were known as the New Kids back in the day. But what some folks may not realize that prior to being the babyface New Kids, they were the mask and bodysuit wearing tag team known as the Twilight Zone, Nebula and Quasar when they first started out. And so they have a pretty good match here. Tony Williams was a super talented wrestler, just another one of those guys who unfortunately couldn't overcome his lack of height. Although he did get a good push as Kid Wicked and Power Pro a few years later. Here, at least the video quality of the video we have, it makes it look like Tony's tights are skin toned, which makes moments of this match kind of awkward. It looks like Brian's wrestling a naked dude. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just saying. Another fun aspect of this is Scotty Flamingo came out and did commentary on this, and he had some fun lines throughout the match over there with Dave and Corey. And eventually Brian would get the win here with what I can only describe as a very awkward roll up. But what were you guys' take on this match between the former partners?
I was getting a kick out of it. Scotty on commentary you were talking about, he started impersonating Gordon Soley at one point. He was like, no, sorry. And he just kind of paused to see if Dave or Corey would kind of, hey, now or something, but nobody picked up on it. But dude, I loved this match. I mean, it was a great back and forth type thing. It wasn't just Brian going out there and eating Tony up. I mean, and dude, Tony Williams, I mean, you're talking about his lack of height and everything. He looked like $1,000,000.
Oh, yeah.
His freaking quads were like the size of my chest. I mean, like, he looked great. Brian,
That's the only knock. That's the only thing that you can. That's the only explanation you can come up with on why he wasn't able to do more was strictly the height, because he had everything else. Well, I mean, like promo skills, but everything else he had.
Maybe a better nickname. Tony Williams doesn't really strike fear, and come up with something better. But yeah,
Tony Williams
sounds like a substitute teacher, does it not? Today,
yeah, I mean, Kid Wicked definitely sounded more imposing once it took a few years to find that, apparently, but
it was the gimmick though. with Kid Wicked, it was the attitude attached to it as well. It was like a rebirth for Tony Williams, and dude, I ate that Kid Wicked shit up, dude. I loved it.
Oh yeah,
you could tell that Brian and him used to be tag partners. They just seem to mesh really well here. And when you're wrestling somebody really well, it just makes everything, and you could tell in this match how well they knew each other, and it just looked seamless.
I seen Tony Williams have some tremendous matches on some spot shows, like over like West Point, Smithville, different shows he was on with, like, Master of Terror, Ken Wayne, and guys like that, when they had plenty of time and we weren't just squeezing in a TV match. Like I said, he looked good against Brian here, but he was able to get the crowd behind him and have some really strong matches. And like I say, I at the time back then as a kid, I didn't really understand, height and big man's business and all that. I was just like, why is this guy not? Why is he not getting title shots? Why are they not, putting him in bigger matches? Because it's how I didn't know about booking theories and all this shit. I was just like, why are they not giving him title matches? Why are they putting him against, and then you get to be older and like, oh, that's why, because they think you got to be a certain height and this and that. And that's unfortunate, but I was glad that he got that run as Kid Wicked in Power Pro. And like you said, Josh, that the attitude with it that he brought, and just like you said, it was like a different guy, honestly. Like, if you hadn't been watching for a while, it took you a minute to be like, oh shit, that's Tony Williams. Like, this is completely new guy that come out of nowhere, it almost seems, and you realize, like, no, wait a minute, that's one of the new kids. And he looked so young, you think, man, you start thinking, doing the math on how long he'd been around, like, and he was hanging with all Derek and all those young guys who were just breaking in, and here's Tony's been here 12 13 years, and hell, you think he was the same age as those guys. So good stuff. So the King comes back out after another break, and he's here to shit on those Yankees up north. And of course, he's going to plug where he'll be coming around the area, and mentions that the Macho Man is coming to Oxford, Mississippi, and Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is just huge for those towns. My God. But mostly he's mostly here to let us know that his softball team is coming to Batesville, Mississippi. And then he gives out Mr. Guy Coffey's phone number again, just in case anybody's got a softball team that wants to come do the JOB. They will come whoop up on that ass at your local softball field. But once we've got all that out of the way, let's hear from the man himself what he has to say about coming to Oxford, Mississippi, home of the Ole Miss Rebels, Macho Man Randy Savage.
America, yeah, with all the glitter and the glamour around the Macho Man. Thursday, April the 15th, it all comes down. It does, it does, it does. And there's nothing that you can do about it, King, because the Macho Man is coming to Oxford, Mississippi, and there's nothing that promoter Eddie Marlin can manipulate to keep me out because the ink is dry. And I'm the type of a person that when I, get pushed back an inch or 30 feet, it doesn't matter because I keep coming forward, yeah. I am the one that's going to take you all the way down in Oxford, Mississippi on Thursday, April the 15th. It's going to happen. I am the happening. The Macho Man and the Macho Man is going to be kicked in. And when I walk down that aisle, when I take off my shades, yeah, and you see my baby blue eyes, you're going to realize that you're out of your element, Jerry King Lawler. I am the man with the plan, and there's nothing that Marlin can do about it. Dig it.
That's funny. We need to cut a promo with you, Mach. Where are we going to do it? Do it for that Felton over there. Yeah, I got my headlock for hunger shirt on for my big heel run I got coming up. And
I swear to God, you can ask Richard. That's exactly what I said watching this. I said he's doing the big heel shit with the headlock for hunger charity shirt on. Like, you know, when you're trying to get your heel on, the best thing to show is like support for charity and whatnot.
And now because Jerry's the baby face, he's got to go the opposite direction. They spoiling them kids with all that food. They can miss a meal. Jesus.
I'm going to beat Macho Man and take all that food they were going to send overseas, and I'm going to bring it right back here to Memphis to feed the little starving children over on
right.
Say Ware.
Lawler, if anybody could pull the crowd in, it would be Lawler in Memphis, right? We don't need to send that food over there to them kids. We need to be taking care of America.
And that's what makes it frustrating about that promo he cut earlier, because like you said, there was no passion in it. He was just, dunking on Scotty's name and his gimmick. But like Jerry Lawler, when he turns it up and he wants to go out there and do business, he could turn the Memphis crowd against starving children. He could make them hate starve. Them people like, yeah, fuck starving children. Let's go see the King whoop Randy Savage's ass. I'm driving to Oxford, Mississippi from Memphis to see this happen.
Dude, I get that feeling. I remember, I always go back to this, but watching this as a kid, it felt like this was like USWA Starcade or something. This is like 3 weeks in a row they've mentioned the big Oxford, Mississippi show on April 15th. I like that date stuck out with me. That's the Oxford show, like I wanted to go just to see what was going to happen, but I don't remember them ever like putting it over a big deal after it happened. So
no, they don't talk about it. I do know from looking in the Observer, they drew over 1,600 people in Jonesboro, biggest crowd ever to watch wrestling in Jonesboro for a Memphis show before or since. And I've never saw an exact figure, but they said the Oxford show drew really well too. Now they said in Nashville, I think I had notes on this for later in the show, but in Nashville, the first time Savage came in, they drew 1,800 people. And a lot of those new fans that hadn't been coming, because they were drawing like around 500 a week. A lot of those were WWF fans that came to cheer Macho, and they were so put out with Macho Man working heel and like cutting a promo on the crowd, trying to get them to be heel. When Macho comes back to Nashville here in a couple of weeks, the crowd was back down to like 600. They said it was just back to the usual USWA fans that they probably should have had like Savage work Brian or something, tag with Lawler, like one or both of you guys had suggested the last time he was here. And I mean, I know Lawler probably wanted to work with Savage, and Savage was used to Lawler, and he was probably game for that. But man, trying to book Savage as a heel in these bookings in this era, I mean, you're fighting an uphill battle if you think you're going to get anybody. Anyway, it's just like trying to work Flair as a heel at this point in his life. It's just like, no, man, we're going to love Savage. Don't even try. Yeah, we love Lawler, but don't do that to us. Let him wrestle. Let him and Lawler wrestle men on a mission, or whoever. Of course, Savage, I'm sure, like, brother, he ain't falling on me. No. So, after the break, we hear from Miss Texas about her match with JC Ice, Jamie Dundee, coming up this week. And you know me, I love a good Miss Texas promo. So let's hear a little bit of what Miss Texas had to say about this upcoming match.
And headed this way right now, it's Miss Texas, who's got an interesting match coming up against J.C. Ice.
You know, last week I was a special referee, and I did the best that I could. J.C. Ice, baby, I know you don't like me, and I don't like you either. Last week, you and that no-good Whoopi D jumped me in the ring and beat me over the head with the hubcap. So I've been talking to Eddie Marlin, you know me, Miss Thing, and I asked for a match. It'll be my very last match against you. But I tell you what, when I do get you in the ring, because I don't think you can beat me, but when I do get you in the ring, I promise you, buddy boy, I'm going to beat your brains out.
Look out, J.C. Ice.
I'm glad they took the camera off Corey, because the first part of the promo, as you can see Corey in the background, he looked like he was taking a shit or something. Like he was making these weird faces, like either he was like something was biting him or he was taking a shit, or like he was just like, like, okay, this is way too distracting. And finally they zoomed in on Miss Texas, like, all right, good. I don't need to see whatever Corey's going through back there.
You ever had your ball stick to your leg?
These hemorrhoids is killing me.
Did she not come off sounding kind of like a lunch lady a little bit? Like we had a lunch lady when we were in high school that cut this almost damn near exact same promo with a kid named Hector. You got me buddy in there, boy. Hubcap, buddy boy. You think you're gonna get 2 scoops of mashed potatoes? No, you better think again.
I'm gonna beat your brains out.
Yep. I mean, I swear to God,
this was the first promo in a while where she didn't use the line, "I'm gonna beat you like I own you."
Well, she had trended with the I am the punk slapper and you are a punk.
You are the punk.
Beating your brains out is a far different thing from being a punk slapper. You know, she's turned it all the way up.
I was waiting for that to become like her official moniker. Coming in now, the punk slapper, Miss Texas, and put it up on the screen, you know, punk in normal letters, of course, slapper in all caps.
Slapper,
the punk slapper. All right, let's take our second commercial break here, folks. Take a moment to go to the bathroom, get a drink, eat a sandwich, get ready, because you're going to need to pack a lunch for this promo we're about to see on the other side of this commercial break. You might want to take a nap or something. I don't know. It gets kind of lengthy, but we'll be right back after these words from our, as Wolfie D says, dope-ass sponsors.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. So if you're looking to support that next up and coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia.
Again, we want to say, please go check out WrestleCopia.com. We are proud to be part of the WrestleCopia podcast network. And now we are ready for our main event of the day, which is going to be a 6-man tag team match, guys. Nightmare Uncle Danny Davis, Jerry the King Lawler, of course, the unified champion, and Jeff Jarrett, the Southern heavyweight champion, taking on the Rock and Roll Phantom. Jeff Gaylord is back. Yay. And Wolfie D with JC Ice in their corner. But before we get to the match, Jeff Gaylord cuts what feels like a 90-minute promo. Holy shit. It just went on and on and on. Here are the highlights of this marathon of a promo. And pay attention. I just told you, he's part of a 6-man tag team. We're going into a 6-man tag team match. But as you see, over there with Dave Brown, Jeff Gaylord stands alone. His partners are nowhere to be seen. And you start to find out why as this promo goes on and on.
I got a little story to tell. You people be quiet when I'm talking. Now, you're looking at a new Jeff Gaylord, baby, and I'm going to tell you why. All my life, I've been a successful athlete. When I was 8 years old, I was the High Point swimming trophy champion. I was the first fourth grader to win the Presidential Physical Fitness Award, and I still am. And I won it 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. When I was 10 years old, I was a 10 and under diving champion of the city of Kansas City. And then amateur wrestling, undefeated record all the way through high school. Never once did I get beat. And then I took football more seriously, baby. And that's where I had the All-State, the All-Metro, the All-American honors. I went on to the University of Missouri, where I not only set every weightlifting record they have, by the way, I bench press 650 pounds. Take a look. I set every weightlifting record. Dave Brown, at this point in time in my career, I haven't excelled. I haven't excelled in wrestling. Well, why, Jeff? Why haven't you excelled? I said to myself. Well, what made you a champion in the past, Jeff? Dedication, hard work, and discipline. I thought when I got into wrestling, I had a 650-pound bench press. I could scramble back and forth across the ring. Back now, and what's made me a Renaissance man? What has made me a champion in the past? Hard work, discipline, superior training, mental discipline. So I've gone back and looked at all the mistakes I've made. And I've made quite a few in wrestling, and I've gotten nowhere. But from this day forward, I can guarantee you mark my words, I am mistake-free. I will do whatever it takes to get to the top. I'm in bed at 11. I'm up at 7 training. I'm running the road. I'm training like I've never trained before. And my mental game is at its peak. And baby, when you watch me, you will see that I am mistake-free. Jeff Gaylord.
Holy hell.
Well, I'm inspired, Gene. I am inspired. Mr. Gaylord, who had the worst name for the 90s, by the way. It was a different time.
Yeah.
But Mr. Gaylord has inspired me to give me some of my credentials here, Gene. I was the 5th grade most improved math student. I have that award somewhere around here. And then countywide field day, tug of war champion. And then I went on to win most courteous in school for the high school. It's in my annual somewhere. I'll prove it here in a minute. I used to zone 5 different departments at Walmart when I worked there a night. I was an order checker at HCI Supply House, and I was the best one ever. Like, how many credentials did he give?
He was like,
okay, continue that promo for a minute as I do my Corey Macklin impression in the background.
And then I used to mix Gatorade up for the people when we would coach softball for Little League and stuff like that. And I also was one of the best coaches for church league basketball they ever had. I mean, it was church league ball, but I was still one of the best coaches. We won 5 games out of 12 that year. It was the best record we ever had.
Yeah, I got good grammar, and when I was 8 years old, I had to say, as distracting as I found Corey to be in the Miss Texas promo, his face was representing everything everyone watching that that promo was feeling at the moment, because you could just see this motherfucker. What the fuck?
He's like,
Shut the hell up, Jeff Gaylord. What are we doing?
Then I wanted a pony when I was 5, but I couldn't get a pony. And you're like, why do I care about this? I hope somebody hits you in the head with a guitar. That's what I want.
I clocked it, and you're not going to believe this. The actual promo, not my clipped highlights, but the actual promo went just a little over 4 minutes. And that is the longest 4 minutes of any of our lives. I would have sweared that was at least an 8-minute promo, but I started it and just clocked it, and it was it's like 4:27. And I mean, they finally at one point just put Lawler's music on, and Gaylord doesn't let up a bit, doesn't bat an eye, to the point that finally they just cut to the curtain as Lawler and Uncle Danny come out mocking him. like he's still talking. And all I could think about was the cussing that had to be going on behind that curtain as they were sitting back there, and he's still talking. I'm sure Lawler's just like, play my fucking music. It's never going to end. What are we doing? And then it just comes through the curtain like,
that Gaylord guy's still talking. We got to get to this Danny Davis loft. Come on.
Uncle Danny back there. My goddamn paint's going to sweat off. Hurry up. I'm wearing this jacket.
Save all that talking, just beat Danny Davis. That's how the rest of them.
Like, Jesus, he's talking about wanting a pony when he was 5, and Danny's back there waiting to get his shoulders pinned to the mat. Good Lord.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, if it's going to be somebody on that side, right, it would be Uncle Danny, right?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I saw Danny came out, and immediately in my head, my grandmother's voice was, well, who's going to lose this one? And I started laughing about, what are you laughing about? I was like, my grandmother, and she's been dead for years, so she probably thought I was insane. But yeah, that's all I can think of.
I hope all the listeners are just like me, that your grandmother now lives in all of our heads, because that's the first thing I think when I see Danny Davis. I hear that voice being like, yeah, he's gonna lose, because I'm sure it's like, I thought Jeff Gaylord was gonna lose till I saw Danny Davis, and it's like, well, okay. It's not always right.
Jeff Gaylord kind of looks like a small Mike Awesome. It's kind of like Jeff Mediocre.
Jeff Regular.
Jeff, okay.
Mike Mediocre. This is my brother that we don't claim.
Right.
He started doing a speech 10 years ago, and he's not done yet. But and I cut 2.5 minutes out of that where he mentions Dr. Death Steve Williams, which I'm sure, like, hey, Dr. Death mentioned you in a promo on Memphis. Like, what? Why would he mention me? Don't ever mention me again. Well, let's take a look at some highlights of this match, and then we're going to talk about it on the other side, because once this plays out, you start to realize what that promo was supposed to accomplish, I guess. And he completely missed the mark. It did not. There's no way that promo did what it was intended to do, unless these guys just called an audible. And well, let's just take a look and then we'll talk about it. Listen to this.
I have to admit that I think he has made a lot of mistakes in and out of the ring in the wrestling business, and it's cost him reaching the top of the profession. Let's see if he can do it mistake-free, and we'll find out what happens today. Yeah.
Davis, that's a test indeed.
I tell you, easy to make mistakes against guys like that. Look at Danny Davis working over Wolfie D.
Yeah,
here.
Wolfie jumped over Danny. He tried to do the same move Danny Davis did. Danny on a roll, and he busts the Phantom with a big right hand. And whips him into the rope. He comes off, goes under after JC Ice over there. Look at JC, boy, he got something around there. Jeff, Gaylord's got the hubcap. Oh, he nailed the rock and roll Phantom with it. Hey, that mistake just may have cost him the match in the time. 1, 2, 3. The rock and roll Phantom holding his head. Old Phantom, all in there, and they're blaming Gaylord for the foul. And he cost him the win, is what he's rocking old Phantom is saying.
All right, now, well, there's a handshake. Maybe they got it settled out. Look at JC Ice. Boy, JC Ice.
Do you see, Mr. No More Mistake? He was a mistake when he was born, baby. He's nothing but a joke. He's a mistake.
JC Ice just hammered him with that hubcap.
Oh, rock and roll Phantom just DDT's Gaylord. Hey, come on with your Phantom.
Guitar.
Come on. Slinging it. Cigar over here and picks up that guitar. He's got it in the ring with him. PG-13 holding on to Gaylord. And he... Oh! Gaylord gets a loose.
Gets a loose.
A rock and roll Phantom with that first act kids guitar.
So there you go. Gaylord accidentally hits Rock and Roll Phantom with the hubcap, cost him the match. And then afterwards, PG-13 and the Phantom turn on Gaylord and beat him up, which in my opinion should have turned them all baby faces in that very moment. Instead, I'm sure it was intended to turn Gaylord babyface. So I suppose that long-winded diatribe before the match was supposed to help build to this and build up this whole I've made mistakes and now I'm trying not to. And Dave even tried to sell that on the commentary. I just don't think we landed. What do you guys think? I mean,
I think he was trying to humble brag, but he might as well have just been every time he listed an accomplishment just saying, fuck you can't do it.
Yes, he came off like a flaming asshole. Like, I don't know if it was supposed to all right, look, they've been watching you here for a couple of years and you haven't won anybody over in the ring. So let's sell them on your real life accomplishments. Let's build you up. And then these guys will turn on you. And then the fans are going to be ready to cheer you. And I'm sure by the time that, I'm sure as that promo went on and on and on, and Lawler was back there behind the curtain, like, oh my God, play the music. If we don't end this promo, this babyface turn's not going to work, but there's no way in hell it's going to work if he talks anymore. Like, he's coming off like the biggest prick in the world. Holy.
Well, the thing that he could have done was go out there and just Dave, be calm, and then list your achievements in a calm manner, like you're trying to reel the crowd into you, slowly. I'm a piece of shit, but I'm going to slowly try to draw you in. But instead, he just went out there and aggressively listed everything. It's like he did a cycle before he went out there.
He started in grade school. That's what's crazy. Like, he didn't start with his college football. Like, in the 8th grade. Like, I mean, it's funny because Richard was exaggerating, but then again, he really wasn't. Because it's like, in 8th grade, I won the spelling bee. And
those are all real awards.
You won a spelling bee.
Those are all real awards I listed, by the way.
Yes, Richard was. No, that was a humble brag by him. Those were all legit. That was not.
We were watching that back, and I turned to Richard and I said, God, are we still in fucking grade school? Like, are we not even to wrestling yet?
Let's hope he didn't do shit as an adult, or we're going to be here all day.
One thing, kind of tapered off after college. One thing that he did not win an award in was climbing the ropes. Did you see that awkward ass shaky step ladder approach he took to getting
climbs up and then turns around as he's trying to pick up the hubcap? I'm like, dude, you are not coordinated to climb up, turn around, and grab the hubcap all in one fell swoop. Yeah. Like, so wonder he didn't fall off the freaking ropes. But
so, do you have any clips of the promo he does after all this?
No, I thought we would kill every bit of audience we had left if we did any more Jeff Gaylord promo after that. Now, I'm gonna give you a hot take here. Some people may get upset. I mean, who could we be mad at about that promo? Yeah, we could be mad at Jeff Gaylord for doing the promo. We could be mad at Dave Brown for not shutting him down, because I feel like Lance Russell would have steered that in a different direction and ended that sooner. Maybe I'm wrong. We could be mad at whoever booked it, Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett. We could be mad at Eddie Marlin for not coming out there and stopping it. We could be mad at Corey for, not getting in the middle of it rather than just sitting back there shaking his head. But you know who I'm mad at? You know who I'm really mad at that we had to sit through this? Eddie freaking Gilbert, because he's supposed to be in a feud with the freaking Rock and Roll Phantom. That's who the feud's supposed to be. But Eddie left, so we had to like, fuck, Eddie quit. Who can we get? And they're like, God damn, Jeff Gaylord's calling every fucking week. He's to the point now, he's like rattling off his like childhood accomplishments trying to get a job. And Lawler's like, all right, well, fuck, put him out on TV. Let him rattle all that off, and we'll see if people are impressed. We'll turn him babyface. I mean, we turned worse babyface. We'll turn Jeff babyface. He can do the feud with Rock and Roll Phantom. So I'm completely pissed at Eddie Gilbert for quitting because now we're stuck with babyface Jeff Gaylord.
You did the old Doug Gilbert line. Who do I blame, Dave? Who do I blame?
I thought it was extremely funny because if you thought the intensity level of the promo before the match was kind of peak Jeff Gaylord, dude, when he goes out there, you said you didn't have any clips, so I'll just briefly describe it because I thought it was hilarious.
If you could just recreate it word for word, that'd be perfect.
I wish I could, but I don't want to have a stroke or a blood vessel to pop in my eyeball. So he goes over there with the guitar in hand, and it's nothing but maybe 30 seconds of him just being enraged and I forget what he said. I was watching Dave the whole time, dude, at least twice in that exchange. Whenever Jeff goes back over there, Dave like you can see him jump back a couple of inches because Jeff is like, I could see to where Dave would be like apprehensive because he's, this guy could get really out of control. I don't know what he's done before he comes out here.
Roid rage is real, Dave. Watch out,
dude. But I thought it was hilarious. Like, yeah, he jumped back a couple of times because I could tell he for real didn't know what the fuck was going to happen.
Well, what I found funny is he tried to come cut that promo immediately following the match. He's got the guitar in hand. He comes storming over there, and Dave goes, well, there you have it, Jeff Gaylord. Let's go to break right now. And he just stops like mid-stride. Gaylord just stops like, oh. Like I got to sit out here for 2 minutes. Guitar in hand. Now waiting to cut I'm so fired up, but now I got to wait 2 minutes to cut this promo, which is probably another reason Dave was nervous. Like, oh God, he's going to be even more wound up now. He's had to wait. But yeah, I couldn't bear to make these people sit through another Gaylord promo. But yeah, you're right. That part of it was pretty funny. And again, I think that this was thrust upon us because Rock and Roll Phantom needs somebody to feud with. We don't have anybody, so I guess we're going to turn Jeff Gaylord. Okay, there we go. So if you guys aren't quite sold yet on coming to the Mid-South Coliseum, if the promos you've seen today, if that Jerry Lawler promo didn't do it, if all this shenanigans with Jeff Gaylord, if Miss Texas telling you she's going to beat JC Ice's brains in didn't do it, well, before we get to the end, they got one more trick up their sleeve. They got one more person that's going to try to talk you into coming down there this Monday night. Let's hear from the Birdman, Koko B. Ware.
Where? Right here.
The Birdman, baby. Oh, yeah! You see, I feel all right again, baby. It's good to be back at home one more time. Rick, can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Can I get a witness? Hey, Whoopie D, I'm going to whoop your booty all over that ring Monday night because I'm telling you, I got a new walk. I got a new talk because the Birdman, brother, is going to be flying high all over that Coliseum, Dave Brown. You see the weather's nice. It's the beautiful. The sun is shining. I'm telling you, people's coming on out to the Coliseum. What a time we're going to have. So, Whoopie D, bring your mama, bring your papa, bring anybody you want to bring on. Because when the Birdman gets through, baby, that's the reason why they call me the Birdman. Oh, yeah! I feel good, good, good. And I feel good. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah. Every time I think about Whippy-Doo, makes me feel good. I got to go, Dave.
Okay. All right, Koko. Good to have you here. We'll be looking for you against Wolfie D at the...
Oh, yeah! Full disclosure, it's Sunday. Yeah. I wasn't planning on going to church today, but I feel like I went to church.
You just did.
He got it going, son. He got it going.
Set up the match, and 4 people got saved. It was.
It's so funny because I was riding home the other day, and I was listening to the Wrestling Memory Grenade that's covering WWF from 1988, and Ray plays promos on there. and he played a Koko B Ware promo. And in 1988, and keep in mind, this is 1993, in the WWF in a promo, Koko's, "Oh yeah, I feel good. Oh yes, I do." And he started whole bit. He just didn't say the name Whoopie D in there nowhere. Woofy D wasn't wrestling yet, but I was like, man, he's gotten some mileage out of that song. But like you said, man, it's got to fire you up. And I feel like whatever your answers were getting ready to be here in a minute, they may have just changed because you're like, shit, Koko's done got me ready to go. I mean, he's out there. He's got his WWF merch shirt on. He's got his JBL style belt buckle on like he just won a rodeo. He's got his leather jacket with a goddamn parrot down the arm. Yeah. Bret Hart ain't got shit on this guy. He is ready. He's got the gold chains. I mean, he is a WWF superstar right here in our midst. So very cool. Let's hear what the rundown is going to be for the rest of the card. We've kind of gotten a hint of a couple matches. We know the Moondogs and the Harlem Knights. We know that Koko's going to fight Whoopie D. Let's see who else besides Jerry Lawler and Scotty Flamingo and Brian and Jeff. I think we know the whole freaking card. Shit, JC Ice and Miss Texas. But let's let Dave say it. It means more coming from him than it does from me.
7:30 is when it starts. USWA action begins with this match now. You got Rock and Roll Phantom scheduled against Jeff Gaylord. Yeah, this is a main event match.
Yeah.
The middleweight title on the line as Danny Davis will be going against the Master of Terror. Danny Davis, the very popular middleweight champion of the USWA. He won the title early on after it was brought into existence a couple of months ago, and for the most part, he has been able to hang on to it. We'll see what happens as he goes against the Master of Terror. Ms. Texas will get to go against J.C. Ice.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Look out for that one. I can't wait to see Miss Texas get a hold of J.C. Ice.
Well, she mentioned that match she was trying to referee and what happened with J.C. and now she says, you know how I am, so I went to Eddie Marlin and asked for a match, and she's got it against J.C. Ice come Monday night. Then Koko Ware, the Birdman, coming into town. He's going to be going against Whoopie D, the other half of PG-13, and what should be another very interesting single match.
Yeah.
Got to say that going in, that Koko Ware is going to be the favorite in this particular outing here.
Yeah, the Birdman will be down there, and maybe he'll bring Frankie along with him.
He just might do it. Might have him on his shoulder there. Tag team titles will be on the line. The Moondogs, they have the belts. Richard Lee, their manager, will be in their corner. Mike Samples has said the first family he's organized. He's got Christopher, he's got Scotty Flamingo, he's got the Harlem Knights, and he says, we are going to take over the USWA. Yeah. Well, I've heard that before. I tell you what, last time he came mighty close to it. Business, he got stock in there. Yeah, he had everything, so don't count him out. The fact that you may or may not like him, don't count him out as a factor as he brings the big 850-pounders, the Harlem Knights, in here to go against the Moondogs. But if you joined us late, you missed Richard Lee saying, hey, if it takes chairs, if it takes garbage cans, whatever it takes, we'll bring it along. Then, Southern title is on the line. Jeff Jarrett will be going against Brian Christopher. We wrap it up with the King, Jerry Lawler, going against Scotty Flamingo. Flamingo has a shot at the unified title. He's confident he can take the belt.
Bird flu. We're just singing songs watching this. Like
we were sitting there wondering how many times Koko had the bird flu, carrying that bird around all the time.
I got the bird flu. Yes, I do.
We're going to start the Retro Wrestling Review Choir. We're going to see if they'll let us perform at the Hall of Fame. Koko's going to be there, you know. We could do backup for him.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see the show, but
yeah, no,
I love it.
I loved Koko.
Yeah,
I did too. But
how many Frankies you think he went through?
Oh my goodness, more than one. But I'll say this: that angle he did with Reggie B, where Reggie B claimed to deep fry him and brought him out there, and Lance was so put out with it. That's one of my all-time favorite things they've ever done. I hope we get there in the reviews eventually, because that's gonna be a great day. I do want to say a couple of things. Dave Brown, beloved and respected weatherman in Memphis, Tennessee for years and years. And he shot every ounce of credibility he ever earned with me in the first 5 seconds of this video. Because when I clicked on it, the first words out of his mouth, Rock and Roll Phantom taking on Jeff Gaylord. That could be a main event anywhere. Bullshit, Dave. Bullshit. That couldn't be a main event in my kitchen, dude. Come on.
Whenever that popped up on the screen, I looked over at Richard and I said, "How do we run Eddie off? Throw Jeff in the first match. We'll run his ass off."
Hit it with that guitar earlier.
I'm pretty sure if I saw these two fight in a bar, I'd just get up and leave. I'd be like,
Yeah,
all right.
I forgot to mention it earlier when we were recapping that, but you talking about an awkward when they were holding Jeff and then the Phantom holds the guitar up for what feels like forever. The way he broke away from him and cut him off looks so awkward and phony and just bad. But anyway, he got that guitar. And then he breaks loose. It's like, I've never wanted to see the Phantom hit a guitar shot more in my life than I wanted just for that promo alone. If the plan was for him to break loose, Jamie and Wolfie should have just locked down on him and like, no, dude, you're taking a guitar shot for that. That was terrible.
He deserved a sideways guitar shot for that.
All the crappiness, it made the Rock and Roll Phantom look like he was nearsighted and really had to aim.
They should have called an audible like, nope, you're taking this guitar shot, pal. Then you can still cut another promo as you're holding it around your neck over there.
Might make more sense this time if you're looking cussed.
Exactly. We'll expect that kind of incoherent rambling for 7 minutes if you're cussed. Otherwise, there's no excuse. And then the other thing that Dave said that caught me off guard, the way he said it about the Harlem Knights, he said Mike Sample's going to be bringing these two 850-pounders in there. I'm like, you'd have to say combined weight. When you say 850-pounders, I picture two guys that each weigh 850 pounds.
The McGuire twins.
The McGuire twins on a mission are coming. So it's that time once again, guys. Let's ask you the questions and see how you feel about today's episode. So for today's show, I'm interested to hear this one because we've already canceled one out that's usually the go-to, or at least Josh has. What was your least favorite part of today's episode?
The telethon of Jeff Gaylord.
Never-ending promo.
Right. Could have done without that. I'll be full disclosure. I fast forwarded until I saw Jerry and Danny pop through the curtain. Then I rewound like 3 seconds to see what he was saying. I mean, I tapped out. I tapped out.
Sir. No more of that. You've got to experience this with us, man. You got to take the ride. You got to take the hit. Come on now. Or you at least can't cop to skipping it on the show because these people are like, I'll listen to this bullshit.
Dude,
dare you, Richard Lee?
I listened to 2 minutes of it and started writing a note to my family. Like I thought it was going to get dark, so I was like, I can't do it. My mental well-being is worth more than
I thought you were going to say. I started writing a note to Gene saying, I hereby resign my post as co-host of Retro Wrestling Review.
Wish you all the luck and the best. I hear Jeff Gaylord's coming up. I'm going to take this time to bow out.
I put up with Josh having a higher chair and clearer camera with me for the last few weeks, but this Jeff Gaylord promo was clearly the last straw.
Right. And I bought all this shit. That's what don't make no sense.
Josh looks like freaking Elegante sitting on He's like, each week he's gone up a couple inches to where he's like a foot higher than you now. It's tremendous.
I love it.
What do you say down there, Richard?
It does
all
look
right, Josh.
Structurally, huh?
It does.
So mine, man, it was the Moondog match. I realized this reviewing this show this week. I do not like babyface Moondogs. They are not the same energy wise. They don't have even Richard Lee. He's not the same. He's not dastardly. He's more annoying than anything. And I thought the whistle was helping last week and all that, but it's not. And I counted one.
The tone of that was just like I just couldn't keep it up. Like, I thought the whistle was helping, but
nope.
Put a lot of faith in that whistle.
Well, no, it felt like the old Moondogs, when they were heels.
Give him a kazoo.
Then you remembered, I didn't really like the old Moondogs, honestly. Like,
well, no, that's where I'm going. So I counted one singular chair shot in the match with the enhancement guys. And that was it. And then as soon as the chair shot happened, he threw the fucking chair out of the ring like it was made of lava. And it's not Moondog like. God damn it. That he's not supposed to care. He's supposed to hit the ref if it's a problem. And like he just one hit and he threw it out real quick. It's like they're the Coon Dogs now, not the Moondogs. They're just they're nothing.
My least favorite part, I get the Moondog thing. I mean, I guess my subtle way of showing that is I stopped showing Moondog clips because I'm just kind of over it right now. But obviously my least favorite part was the Jeff Gaylord never-ending promo. But yeah, I feel that with the Moondogs, and I mean this as a compliment, not as a knock. Richard Lee's not a babyface manager. I cannot get behind Richard Lee as a babyface manager. I don't mean that as he's a bad manager. I mean he's a heel. I want to hate Richard Lee. I don't want to get behind him. And I don't really want to. I mean, babyface Moondogs is one of those things where some heel team, Bruce Brothers, comes in and they're so dastardly and whatever. And for a few weeks, we can turn the Moondogs heel to counteract them and they can have a feud. But as soon as that feud's over, I need my Moondogs either heel or out of here. But I don't need to continue the babyface run of the Moondogs because there's just not legs on that. So yeah. I get what you're saying. I totally agree. What was your most favorite part of today's episode?
I was rough on them before, so I've got to give credit where credit's due. The Harlem Knights, they actually had an entertaining match. It looked like they were getting better. Even that little spin wheel kick that Mabel does, it was on point this week. So it was entertaining. They didn't do too much, and they got the point across. And there was no dues this week. I'll give them the most. Like, honestly, that was the biggest thing for me was watching this. I was like, they're not doing it. They're not doing the do. I'm like, I was so happy. Like, that was my favorite part of the show.
So mine, it has to be Brian Christopher and Tony Williams match. I mean, dude, I love when there's priors, you know what I mean, with wrestlers. Like whenever they have had some thick history before, to me, that makes it even more better. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I felt the same type of energy whenever, Tito Santana would slide in against the model Rick Martel. It's like some people didn't give a shit. It's just a regular match. But to me, it was like, dude, they betrayed each other, or Martel betrayed him and was, that's the same type of thing because the new kids were together for a while. But yeah, like Richard said before, you could tell that they were so comfortable with each other. And that's probably the biggest factor into the match that they had was they are comfortable with each other and they trust each other more so than, they may trust other wrestlers. And it translated, man, because they had a flawless match. And even the end, even though the roll-up was sloppy, it made sense with the tight pull and all that. It was just, it was grimy, but it worked. And also, I mean, come on, not one DQ this week, right? I mean, we had 4 decisions in a row. I couldn't believe it.
Keep that in mind is all I can say. I guess my favorite part of today's episode is weird as it sounds, the Scotty Flamingo promo. I like Scotty Flamingo and I enjoyed the promo, but I also enjoyed the Harlem Knights match. So kudos. Bobby Knight's got a tremendous lawyer. A couple letters went out and all of a sudden we're singing their praise, and I'm just kidding. But no, it was a good show across the board, and I enjoyed, I guess really besides the Scotty Flamingo promo, probably my favorite part of the match part of the show was getting to see highlights of the Shawn Michaels and Jeff Jarrett match. Yeah. Just to see that, holy shit, they delivered, they came through, and it would have paid off to go to that show last week because it was a great match. It was the finish that needed to happen. Nothing to complain about there at all because you wouldn't have known that they pulled the camera off off the key element of the finish. So that was for later. So would this TV show, and keep in mind the Koko promo, would this TV show have inspired you to buy a ticket to Monday night's card if we were still back in 1993?
Absolutely not. I'm gonna save my money for Oxford when
Oh no!
right.
I feel bad, Danny Richard Lee.
Well, I'm gonna go watch the Masters of Sarah beat Danny Davis again. I won't see that. No, I'm gonna save my money for the Oxford show.
Come on down to Oxford, Richard. Yeah, I'll show you something to see.
Yeah, that's the show that they promoted today that I kind of want to see. You know,
I'm gonna beat Jerry Lawler's brains in. Yeah, I'm the punk slapper now because she's not.
Gonna end hunger with my lunch lady.
I'm gonna end hunger because I'm gonna feed Lawler Slim Jims until he pukes, brother. All right. So that being said, did you answer?
No.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be a no
again.
from me, man. It's going to be
holy shit. This is the first no from Josh, I do believe. I don't think there's been a single card where Josh said no.
I think
Jeff Gaylord, you son of a bitch.
Well, yeah, you add Jeff Gaylord. My fear of him taking up 60 minutes during that first match.
Oh shit, he's got a microphone.
You're gonna watch Rock and Roll Phantom lip sync for 12 minutes, and then Jeff Gaylord's like, "Let me tell you, I won the singing competition in junior high."
Dude, my mom would never take me to wrestling again if she had to sit through that shit.
That was awful. That was really awful.
I'm gonna tell you something, Josh. I used to like wrestling, but now
you might want to start talking to girls and get out of this.
Yeah,
I have to think the Rock and Roll Phantom's gimmicks ruined without having Bert there to do their shtick before the match, right? Because I'm sure Mike Samples isn't out there dancing around with
no.
And then the whole the thing I talked about with Scotty and Jerry, man, like the main event, it just doesn't feel like there's a sense of urgency at all. It doesn't seem like this is going to matter at all. So if I'm 10 years old again, I'm going with Richard, man. I'm saving my money for something better.
That's fair. And I'm going to be honest, and I'm not just saying this because it's kind of become a running joke of, me working to put them over for whatever reason. But the only match on this card that would inspire me to go, and full transparency, there really hasn't been a Moondog match since we've been covering this show that would have inspired me to buy a ticket anywhere. The only match that really has my curiosity up is the Moondogs versus the Harlem Knights. Probably not for any of the reasons they want it to, but it does. Jarrett and Brian, while it's a good story to bring them back together, I've seen it. Like I said, Lawler showed no enthusiasm about wrestling Scotty Flamingo. Gaylord and Phantom, no thanks. We've seen Miss Texas and JC Ice tie up. Koko and Wolfie, that's a new match, but, let's be honest. Danny Davis against the Master of Terror. All right. So, all right. We've established none of us would go to this. So let's see what we would have been missing. Let's see if we made the right choice or if we're all going to eat shit now and be like, oh my God, that would have been amazing. Why wouldn't we have gone? April 5th, 1993 at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee, drawing a house of, we don't know. They don't have it down for us anywhere. I searched the Observer. I searched the other one. What is it? Torch. None of them had it. So in the opening bout, as Corey Macklin would say, Jeff Gaylord pinned the Rock and Roll Phantom. In the second match, the USWA middleweight champion, Nightmare Danny Davis, pinned the Master of Terror. In the third match, Miss Texas beat JC Ice via disqualification. In the fourth match, Koko B. Ware beat Wolfie D via disqualification. In the fifth match, the USWA Tag Team Champions, the Moondogs, Spot and Splat with Richard Lee, defeated the Harlem Knights with Mike Samples via disqualification.
What the hell?
In the sixth match, the USWA Southern Heavyweight Champion, Jeff Jarrett, defeated Brian Christopher via what, guys? Disqualification. But never fear. In the main event, Jerry the King Lawler defeated Scotty Flamingo via disqualification. What the actual fuck? 7 matches, people. 7 matches, and 5 of them consecutively, that's in a row, ended in disqualifications. What the fuck?
And Danny's winning one. So
yeah, and your grandma was like, I don't know what's happening in the world anymore. Like nothing makes sense. Like, up and down, left to right. You know,
Jeff Gaylord won clean, so he's got that on his resume to talk about now.
Yeah, your grandma was like, I'm in a bizarro world now. Like everything I ever thought I knew in all my years living is just completely out the window. Okay, I hate to be, I don't give a fuck. Get mad. I don't care. Write me hate mail. I don't give a shit. I mean, we've been trying to be kind of diplomatic on here, and I love me some Memphis wrestling, but Jesus H. Christ, 5 DQs in a row?
Yeah.
Really? Like, how do you not kill the town? You know, we talked about how the match with Jarrett and HBK, that was the perfect ending, but it probably didn't mean as much as it would have because we see so many of these run-in finishes. I mean, yay, it wasn't a DQ. I mean, because if it had been on this week's card, Brian would have ran in for the DQ finish and Jeff would have won by DQ. But I'm just dumbfounded. Like, Lawler couldn't pin Scotty Flamingo. He lost to the Moondogs last week. Why would Lawler not just straight up pin Flamingo?
Yeah.
Why would Koko not just beat Wolfie D?
Can we do a count out? Something.
Anything. Count outs. Time limit draws.
Yeah.
Something. 5 DQs in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, the next week, the next 2 or 3 weeks, if I'm living in Memphis and they advertise a card, and my buddy comes to school on Tuesday and be like, man, be glad you didn't come last night. Every match was a freaking disqualification. I'm going to think twice about wanting to go.
Yeah.
I understand there's times and angles where it's time for a DQ. That's where we need to, that's going to get us where we need to go. But 5 matches on the card, really? I mean, am I overreacting here, guys? Am I being a dick or do I need to calm down?
You said disqualification and Moondogs and the same, thing like that.
What did they do?
That's what I'm saying. In a Moondogs match, it's the fucking Moondogs rules.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we already established that. Yeah. It's like, it's said without being said or known without being
I guess
said.
they are the only ones that can cheat because apparently the Harlem Knights got DQ'd. So I guess the Moondogs were able to use chairs, but then the Harlem Knights did something illegal. And it's like, nope, it's just the Moondogs that are allowed to cheat. Because even you pointed out in the TV match, they used the chair once. It was only once, but they did use it once, and they didn't get DQ'd. But and folks, I promise you, we do not talk about this stuff ahead of time. And these guys, to my knowledge, because I can tell by the genuine look and surprise on their face most of the time, they don't go look up the Coliseum results ahead of time.
No.
They're usually hearing it for the first time whenever I say it. I lit up inside when you said, and every TV match had an ending. There were no disqualifications. I was like, hold on to your hat, big guy, because we're saving up gather up all of them disqualifications. Let's get them all together because we're going to use all of them Monday night. We're going to use every last damn one of them.
Oh, man.
So next week, we're going to kind of see that maybe, just maybe, all these DQs are building to something. But I still don't agree with it. You could have had disqualifications and a couple of key matches to get us there without 5 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I feel like you need to, more often than not, you need to deliver a finish in the main event. And almost every main event that's involved a big name WWF star has ended in some kind of screwy DQ. Scotty, he's loosely tied to WCW, but clearly we can do what we want with him. We were able to put the tag belts on him and then turn around and beat him for him.
Yeah.
Lawler could have beat Scotty Flamingo. And if it's a matter of putting heat on something for next week, he beats Scotty Flamingo. The first family runs in, attacks Lawler.
Yeah.
The Lawler's friends come in for the save, and we end the show with a big brawl in the ring, setting up whatever we're going to set up next week. But I just can't imagine. I would feel walking out, as disgusted as I feel at the end of this podcast, that we've just spent now an hour and 50 minutes building to this, and this is what it brought us. I just imagine what it would have felt like driving down to the Mid-South Coliseum, paying my money, and walking out of there feeling like I've had my nuts kicked in, and now I got to get up and go to work tomorrow or go to school or whatever the case would have been. And I came down here for that. And folks, I'm sorry if you think that we're being dicks, but I mean, it's frustrating. It's not like we're not going to watch it again. That we're committed. We're going to do this again next week. And if it's good, we'll say it's good. But in times like this, I mean, you got to call spade a spade. It's just, it's not good. It's not cool.
Yeah. Denial's not going to make it any better. You know what I mean? It won't make it any better, but it's like a fucked up family member. It doesn't mean I don't love you.
Yeah.
You can do fucked up shit and act crazy, but I still love you.
Going through a trouble time right now.
And I think it would ruin our credibility with people, just like it ruined Dave Brown's, to say that Jeff Gaylord and the Rock and Roll Phantom could be a main event. It would ruin our credibility to be like, that was great, man. Fuck yeah, that's what I would have done. I'd have did 5 DQs. Shit, I'd have done 7 DQs.
Yeah.
Let's just do a sweep. Let's DQ all them fucking matches, dude. Let's do it.
Do you think they're doing it on attendance? They get there, and if the attendance is not good, it's like, well, they don't show up. Give them DQs.
That came up before, and but to me, it's like, okay, the booking you've been doing has driven the attendance to this. What the hell do you think doing 5 DQs is going to do for the next round of attendance? To me, I feel like the attendance is where it's at because of shit like this.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it certainly ain't helping.
Yeah.
To not deliver, because to me it's like promising a product and not delivering, because advertising a match and giving a DQ finish, and like I say, 1 match, 2 match, it fits the story, great. Right. Why do we need a DQ? Koko just got here. He's not in an angle with Wolfie. I'm sure he's not going to stay in an angle with Wolfie. Why do we need a DQ there? Why do we need a DQ with the Moondogs and the freaking Harlem Knights? Double count out.
Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of, is maybe they're doing this attendance based thing to where they're like, they don't want to waste a good finish. I'd be interested. You said the Jonesboro show had 1,600 people there. I wonder how many DQ finishes were on that show.
I don't know. I'm gonna do some work, because that's all they did was tell the attendance. But I'm gonna go ahead and look at a couple of issues after that and see if they ever did give it results of the whole card, because I would be very, very interested to see how they played that. I doubt there's no way Lawler pinned Savage or Savage pinned Lawler, so that match ended in some kind of DQ. But if it's 7 matches and 1 has a DQ,
right?
I understand how this shit works. You can't just have Savage beat Lawler, because now he's the champ. Can't have Lawler just beat Savage. But
at the same time,
it eases the blow if we got 6 really good clean finishes, and now we got the 1.
Right.
All right, we can live with that.
Again, that going in, so why even book the match? Why not put Savage against somebody he can beat?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, like I say, it kind of ended on a sour note, but I will say this: next week, the whole show is going to be building towards what they are calling the USWA Wrestle War 93.
Ooh.
So, and if you go on YouTube and to the YouTube channel Retro Wrestling Archive, and you look for that episode, which is what is that, like April the 10th. If you look at the April the 10th episode, the thumbnail shows Jerry Lawler and Jeff Jarrett in camo, and their faces all painted up and shit. So it's going to get crazy, right? So, maybe that will redeem all this. I don't know. But like I say, I'm just not thrilled about this. And if it hurts anybody's feelings, I'm sorry. Please. And you know what? Here's the deal. We have a lot of good interaction on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/retro wrestling review. Go on there and tell us your thoughts. If you think we're being too harsh, defend it. And I'm not saying this like a dick. I'm not trying to you defend it, man, because I'm going to argue with you. I'm just like, just tell me your take. Like, please tell me in what world that 5 DQs out of 7 matches is good. And if you have a good case, I'll agree, or we can have a discussion. It'll be civil. We're not here to argue with anybody or anything like that.
Be blocked and reported.
And if you're somebody, we will immediately block you and never watch the show again. And if you're somebody involved in the USWA and you got to take, especially if you have some insight on why they were doing this kind of thing, I like Randy wasn't there booking, or I would have immediately emailed Randy Hales as soon as I finished the show and been like, dude, what was that? Like, why did y'all do that? I would love some insight. I'd love to hear it, because I don't know, man. I'm not getting it, but bring us back to a better place. Take a look at the first family there posing for a photo op. Now tell me why. You tell me the three of us standing right behind that bench there, behind Scotty, Mike, and Brian, alongside the Harlem Knights. Tell me you wouldn't want that picture hanging on your wall right now. You're lying if you say you don't, because that would be amazing. Pretty cool. And to further confuse matters, on this very show, as we advertise the Easter egg extravaganza, we're still promoting Eddie Gilbert 2 weeks after he has quit. And it's not like they just left his name on the graphic. Corey said, Eddie Gilbert gonna be down there. No, he's not. Why? Why are you saying that? I don't know if they thought that they had worked out a deal. We're like, hey, we know you left the territory, but will you come back? Will you come back for Easter? Like, will you come back? It's been so many days. Will you be Jesus and come back after, you've been gone for...
Come on, it's Easter.
He has risen. Eddie Gilbert is back here.
If I know Eddie Gilbert, I know he loves an egg hunt.
Well, from the last show that we just reviewed, at the Coliseum, they need a fucking savior. Good God.
Yes, they do. One of these eggs has a chain in it, Eddie, and if you find it, you can use it on the Rock and Roll Phantom in the second match. Eddie's like, I'm out. You guys don't learn your lesson. I quit. And with that,
for a DQ when you use the chain, by the way.
It's okay. You're not going to actually lose. You're going to get disqualified, because that's what we do here. USDQWA. We disqualify everybody. All right, folks. We're sorry. It kind of rambled here at the end. So stick around for a moment. We'll tell you about a few other cool things you can check out. Be sure you go and check out P3 Radio and hear these guys talk about fun topics that have usually nothing to do with disqualifications or wrestling. Sometimes it's about wrestling. Sometimes it's about just other fun topics. Turns out, this is news to me. I just found this out. You don't always have to talk about wrestling. There's like other shit in the world. I don't know. That's the rumor anyway. I don't believe it. But according to these guys, you can actually talk about things besides wrestling, and too many more of these DQ paloozas. And we may do a whole episode where we just don't even talk about wrestling. It'll be the Retro Wrestling USWA podcast, and we'll review an episode of Night Rider or some shit. I don't know. Anyway,
I'll review Night Court before some of those shit.
Do you know Mr.
Oh, yeah. Hey, folks, before we get out of here, I'd just like to take a moment to tell you we appreciate you checking out the podcast. And if you would, do us a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now, wherever you're watching it. If you'll just take a moment to either subscribe, to rate, and review, let us know what you think. We hope you're liking it. But even if you're not, let us know what you would like to see changed, and we will take that in consideration as we move forward. So we really appreciate any feedback we can get. Also, we just want to say how proud we are to be a part of the WrestleCopia brand of wrestling podcast. Ray Russell brings you something for everyone over at WrestleCopia.com. Check out all the great wrestling podcasts available over there right now. And for all things related to the Retro Wrestling Review podcast, you can go to USWApodcast.com and you can find links to everything we have there, our Facebook, our Twitter/X, our TikTok, our Instagram, our merch store. That's right. We've got shirts. We've got hats. We've got phone cases. We've got all kinds of great stuff. And it's all right there at our store. And you can find a link to it at USWApodcast.com. There's a link to the YouTube channel we're associated with, the Retro Wrestling Archive. You can find all that there. And if you have questions for us, if you saw something on the show that you have a question about or a comment about, if you've got some info to answer a question we have, or you got a question you want us to read on the air, if you want to work out an ad swap, if you want to have any kind of communication with us, you can go and send an email to USWA podcast at outlook.com, and I will get back to you just as quickly as humanly possible. And if you're a fan of Dangerous Conversations with Doug Gilbert, and if you've heard it, I know you are, check out DougGilbertPodcast.com for all things related to Doug's podcast. You can find links to our Facebook page for the show, our Twitter. You can find links to Doug's social media, his Twitter, his Facebook. All that's available there, plus a link to the YouTube channel. And if you have a question for Doug you would like for me to ask him on the air, you can send that question to DougGilbertPodcast at outlook.com, and we will get it added, and it will get answered in a future episode just as quickly as we can work it in. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you here next week for more